It's the holiday season, Carmela, and you know what that means.
Santa's coming?
Yes, but actually it means port wine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
it does, huh?
Yes. So today we're going to learn more about what this famous Portuguese wine is all about and why it's a great holiday pairing.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to the Wine Pair Podcast. I am Joe, your sommelier of reasonably priced wine, and this is my wife and my wine pairing partner in crime, Carmela.
Hi there.
And we are the Wine Pair.
Woo!
Ho, ho, ho. And if you are new to our podcast, here is a quick orientation. Each week we explore a different wine varietal or blend like Chenin Blanc or Nebbiolo or Port.
Woo!
And we dive into what makes new wines so fun to learn about and how to make great choices on new wines to try. And our goal is to help you expand your wine knowledge in a fun way that is accessible to regular people.
Nice.
Not just wine nerds like us.
No.
Exactly. And we also taste and review 2 to 3 wines under $20 each and share our scores and recommendations to help you find great wines without breaking the bank. So thank you for joining us, and we're proud to say that Decanter Magazine calls us fun, irreverent,
Chatty.
and entertaining.
All right.
Well, Carmela, I guess this is our Christmas episode.
Woo!
Yeah. And this year, it feels like it came really fast. Doesn't it feel like Christmas came really fast this year?
Because there was less time in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So actually it did come faster.
It's the turkey's fault, isn't it?
Wow. Why?
Don't
blame the turkey.
Why? Whose fault is it?
That's the scapegoat, right?
Yeah, well, steak turkey. All right. Well, Carmela, it's been a few months since we did a Portuguese wine primer episode, and the word is primer, not primer. Mm-hmm. And so for this last wine tasting episode of the year, that's right, I said it, it's our last wine tasting episode of the year.
Of 2024.
That's right. But don't worry, we still have new content for you for the next several weeks, including our best and worst wines of the year and another winemaker interview. But I'm looking at her. I have to give Carmela a break every once in a while. She's got to make some cookies.
Right.
She's got to make some
I got to
cakes.
play a little Mrs.
That's
Claus.
right. That's right. So the last 2 episodes will just be with little old me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
No, actually, it'll be really fun. I mean, I think actually
It
people might like
more
it better.
fun, I think. Yeah.
no,
Gosh, don't comment on that, please.
No, please don't. Because anyway, well, back to this episode. Listener Christine reached out to us and said that we should do an episode on port, and so we are on it.
Okay.
And port, as you have probably figured out, is a wine from Portugal.
Right.
Okay. And in fact, port is a fortified wine produced exclusively in the Douro Valley of northern Portugal, and its name comes from the coastal city of Porto, where it was traditionally shipped and exported.
Okay, so you can't make it anywhere else.
Exactly. Real port, it's like you read the show notes.
Oh, my.
Real port is going to come from Portugal, and we'll talk about how it's made and more of the history of it in a little bit. But go ahead.
Is there faux port?
Oh my gosh. It is like she is reading my mind or read the script, but I never give it to her.
I mean, look at me. Finally, I'm figuring it out.
Well, what's nice is you're finally listening. Maybe that is my Christmas gift. Thank you for that.
Hey,
okay. Now,
I have my listening ears on.
You
today.
do. Now, Carmela, as you said, every once in a while you may run into wines that are called port but are not made in Portugal. And that's because the EU did not place restrictions on the name until 1986. And it was even later than that other regulations and agreements were made. So, for instance, it wasn't until 2006 that a trade agreement was made between the United States and the EU, which prohibited American winemakers from using the term port. However, just like the term champagne, winemakers who were using the name before the restrictions were put into place.
Grandfathered in.
Exactly. They can still do it.
How do you feel about that?
I don't like it, actually.
What do you think? They should just be cut off?
Yeah, unless it was actually part of the name itself. Like if they're trying to say it's a champagne or a port, I don't think they should say it anymore. I think they can say like port style, but I don't think they should say port on it.
That would probably really bother people who were making it, though.
Totally. I think so. Well, this is why they made
both on both ends.
Yeah, well, this is why they put the restrictions in. And by the way, this is going on with Prosecco right now because a bunch of vineyards or wineries in Australia are trying to use the name Prosecco.
Posers.
I know, posers, exactly. But Carmela, back to port. You may ask what a fortified wine is.
I was wondering what a fortified wine is.
Well, fortified wines are wines where a distilled spirit is not a spook, but a spirit is added in the process of production. So think of it as adding like a brandy to wine.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you may ask also, why do they add a distilled spirit?
Yeah, I'm kind of not sure why. Can you tell me, Joe?
I'm
like sure you've done some research.
I really like the way this episode is going so far. It seems to be playing right into my dirty little hands.
What?
Okay, adding the distilled spirit, Carmela, does a couple of really important things that make fortified wines like port unique. Here's one.
What's another example of a fortified wine?
Well, I mean, it's like you read the script, but here it is.
I was like, when you were writing it last week, I was kind of peeking over your shoulder.
Were you?
No.
Did you look at mine? Okay. No, like sherry from Spain and Madeira from Portugal are also fortified wines.
Okay.
Vermouth? No, that is not a
That's
fortified.
just
Can I get on?
Okay.
Now it's not going my way. Now things are starting to turn a little bit. It's like Rudolph with his nose so bright went down a different
No, it's
path.
like the nose just, started to fizz out.
You're right. Fizz out.
Wait.
Okay. So first of all, what does it do when you add this distilled spirit? First, it increases the wine's alcohol content. So fortified wines are, they're generally like 20% alcohol or higher.
Wow.
So they'll knock you out.
Oof.
Second thing is it actually stops the fermentation process, which means the yeast stops turning the sugar into alcohol, which means more sugar is left behind, which makes the wine
Sweeter.
sweet. Exactly. So it's sweeter than the average wine. And one of these wines we're going to have today is super duper sweet.
Well, you don't need very much then.
No, you do. Well, this is one of the...
Well, and then, okay, it leads me to other questions, but go ahead.
Can I just finish
Yes,
the list?
you
Okay.
can.
So third, adding the distilled spirit acts like a preservative. So the wine can age for a lot longer. And so in the past, this was really important because if wines had to be transported over long trips, they didn't have refrigeration. They didn't have those kinds of things. They put them in a ship. They needed them to last for a while. So the distilled spirit helps them last. And you may know this, but some ports, because your dad has some old ports, they
Yeah.
can be like 100 years old or
Holy cow.
older. Yeah. And then the last
Are you
part-
supposed to refrigerate them, though?
No, you don't. You do not have to. After you open it,
That's what I mean, like after you open it?
I would put it in the fridge if it's a certain kind. So we're going to talk about that. If it's a certain kind of port, I would, but you don't have to with all of them.
Okay.
But like a vintage port, you don't have to. Okay, but anyway, the fourth one and last one is that along with putting the wine in wine barrels, distilling the wine adds complexity and flavor. So some people say that these wines, because of the distilled spirit, can taste like dried fruit or caramel or spicy. And again, some of these flavors are coming out of the distilled spirit. So now, do you have other questions?
No, I think you answered them all. Either that or I forgot it.
You probably forgot
Which
it.
is probably
Which is
difficult.
great. Whew.
Sorry.
Thankfully.
See
Okay.
what you did?
But probably the main reason why we're focused on port today, Carmela, is because it's a wine that is traditionally served around the holidays and Christmas time and for special celebrations. In fact, some people wait all year to bring out their fancy schmancy ports.
But you don't need to.
No, you absolutely don't
My
need to.
memories of drinking port have been at around the campfire. I mean, like
Really?
at our beach houses.
Wow.
Don't
Well,
you? My dad will bring them out sometimes
Every
in the summer.
once in a while. He doesn't do it as much anymore because they're pretty...
They're heaters, though.
They're
They'll
heaters.
keep you warm, like on a cooler summer evening.
It's true. And they're also they're great for after meal wine because they're really good with desserts. And they're really good with things like rich blue cheeses, which by the way, I've got and we're going to have when we drink it today.
Wow.
So this feels like the perfect wine to talk about and drink during the holidays. And today we're going to taste and review two different types of port, a tawny port and a ruby port. And we'll tell you if we think we recommend either of the ports for your holiday shindigs. But first...
You got to do our shameless plug.
Well, that is quite right, Carmela. So thank you for listening to us and for supporting our show. And if you haven't had the chance to do so yet, now would be the perfect time to follow or subscribe to our podcast. And thank you to all of you who have already done that. And another great way to support us is to leave a nice rating and review on our website or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever podcast app you use so we can grow our listeners. And you can also follow us and see pictures of the wines we're tasting and trying today and weird AI pictures I like to make on Instagram. at the Wine Pair Podcast. And we're now on Blue Sky as well, if you're curious. And we post differently there than we do on Instagram. So it's not the same thing. It's kind of cool. It's kind of fun. And you can contact us on our website, thewinepairpodcast.com. You can sign up for our email newsletter there, and we'll give you recipes and news and food pairings and maybe talk about stickers too.
Oh my.
And we like to make content that you care about and you like. So send us a note and tell us what you like and what you don't like, or if there's wines you want us to try or wine making areas of the world that you're curious about. We'll take care of it. And a shout out to Corinne, who reached out to us to ask for some stickers. And she is always a great supporter of our show. And also to Miss Melissa, who's our favorite basketball coach in the whole wide world. And she sent us a super sweet note and asked for some stickers. And so we have sent stickers her way all the way to Texas.
Nice.
And a shout out to Becky, because John let us know, old Sharpie let us know that you force him to listen to us. And so, Becky, we have some stickers for you too. We'll just, next time we see you, we'll bring them to you.
For sure.
So like Corinne and Melissa and other folks, just email us at joe@thewinepairpodcast.com and we'll send you stickers.
Oh, I love it.
For free.
Look at that.
No cost.
Oh my God.
That's what
Merry
free means.
Christmas. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Anything.
Whatever you do,
Whatever you celebrate.
happy for you. And
exactly.
And we really appreciate your support, Corinne, Melissa, and Becky. And as we do every week, we'll tell you someone we think you should recommend the Wine Pair Podcast to, because the best way for us to grow listeners is when you tell your family and friends and loved ones about us, because your endorsement makes a difference. And this week, we want you to recommend us to anyone who loves port or who wants to make a big splash at the holiday get-together this year, because this episode may make them the belle of the ball.
Oh, wow. Wait, okay.
If you
so
do a ball.
Right.
I don't know, have you ever been to a Christmas ball?
Yeah.
We used to have a Christmas ball. I don't think we
did.
ever went together, did we?
No.
We were
never.
were we in the
Honey,
same group
no.
ever? Well, I think we were one year, weren't we?
There would only have been 1 year, and I don't think
Someday
so.
we'll talk about our long relationship. We've known each other for a long time.
I mean, so long, since we were babies. I mean, almost.
Kind of.
Kinda
Okay.
Weird, kind of weird.
Very weird. Okay, so Carmela, let's talk about just what the port wine is, and we're going to spend a little time differentiating between Tawny Port and Ruby Port, because again, those are the two port wines that we're going to drink today, and they're different, okay?
Okay.
They're different.
Okay.
And I will say, as usual, we're just going to scrape the surface. We are not going to be able to get into everything, so I have lots and lots of links in our show notes. Did you know we have show notes?
I did.
Yeah.
I'm well aware now.
Yeah. And so if you go to our website and look for this episode, there's tons of links, lots of cool and interesting stuff about port. But here we go for a little bit. First, we mentioned that port is a fortified wine where distilled spirit is added, but let's talk a little bit about how it's made. Okay. So port is a blend of different grapes, and there can be up to 100 different grapes that can be used.
Ridiculous.
I know. I'm not going to go through all those grapes.
I was going to say, my God, we're going to be here all night.
I'm not going to do it. Okay. But I will give you the top ones, because they're kind of fun to say. It's like
Francisco.
It's like Francisco. It's kind of fun to say. So there's Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Tinta Roriz, which is another name for Tempranillo, Tinta Barroca, and Tinta Cau. And these grapes are evidently grown in really steep vineyards along the Douro River. And because the vineyards are so steep, the grapes are hand harvested because they can't get machines on these steep hillsides.
Poor people.
No, this is wine.
Sounds dangerous
and a labor of love. Like, this is a lot of effort that goes into these wines. So you better enjoy them if you drink them.
Right.
Now, here's the really interesting thing. Traditionally, the wines were crushed by foot. So, you know, the stereotype.
Oh my,
it's true. And they were crushed by foot in large granite vats called lagers, just like you picture in your head. And believe it or not, my grandfather on my mom's side would make my Uncle Tolly stomp the grapes when he made his homemade wine. And on a
Did he make port? Probably
No,
not.
he didn't.
He was
But
not in Spain.
He did make grappa, though, from the leftovers. But on a total side note, my Uncle Tolly's real name was Natale, because he was born in December, and Natale means
Christmas.
That's right, in Italian, but I digress.
My God, where did we go with this?
I don't know, but I thought it was kind of a fun digression.
Fact.
And it's part of the Christmas season, and there you go.
It. Yep.
Fun. Okay, so today they usually use machines to do the foot stomping, and actually in the next section where we talk about the actual wines, I'm going to talk about some of these robotic toes that they have.
Okay.
I kid you not.
I mean, I'm glad they're robotic now, I have to say. I
Well-
don't want to see anybody's toes on my grapes.
Well, some of the winemakers still do prefer to use the foot stomping
That's why
method.
there's a lot of alcohol.
Well, it's also because those funky feet, you got to get that funk out of the feet. But they actually think that foot stomping gives the best results.
Maybe
But
that's why you like blue cheese. It's kind of
funky from under your toes. This is the wine from under your toes. Okay, now, after they squish these grapes, the juice is fermented, and in many traditional port making techniques, they focus on using naturally occurring yeast that live on the grape skins. And then one of the key steps comes next, which again is the fortification process. So after fermentation, they add a neutral spirit called aguardiente, and it's a type of brandy, and it's added to the wine, as one source says, to gently put the yeast to sleep.
Oh,
Well, you know what that means.
it doesn't. I don't know. Oh, they kill it.
Mort. Yeah. It's a nice way of saying that
Golly.
the alcohol kills the yeast.
Oh, man.
And then the wines are generally aged in oak barrels, although this is one of the differences between Ruby and Tawny Port, and we'll start talking about that. So Ruby Port is aged for less time, usually 2 to 3 years, and they're sometimes not oaked because the winemakers want to focus more on fruitiness. Tawny Port is aged in small oak barrels for a long time, sometimes 10 to 40 years.
Oh, my.
Exactly. And the oaking gives it a nutty, gives it caramel flavors, and leads to a very oxidized, this very distinctive oxidized smell and taste, which is usually not something you want on a wine because it means that oxygen has gotten to it. But in a port and some of these styles of wine, that funky grandma's basement smell and taste is kind of what you want.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of strange.
It is. It's a little,
When you have it, you almost can tell it. I mean, you can tell right away if it's a port.
yeah, it's a little like wet dog. It's a little like wet cardboard
But
in the basement.
It almost feels very old. And
It does.
It actually
It does.
tastes, I don't know why, but it kind of tastes expensive.
It-
even though it's, I mean, I don't know if these are, and they must be reasonably priced, but
The ones we are, but some of the
Right.
vintage ones can be super expensive.
right. And they are kind of like, kind of funky tasting.
They definitely. Now, when I mention port as a blended wine, yes, that means it's blended with different grapes, but port is also often blended across different years. So before it's bottled, winemakers spend a lot of time blending wines from different vintages and different grapes and different barrels to achieve a consistent style. So one port every year kind of tastes similar to the ones before. Now, a vintage port is considered the most desirable and, of course, usually the most expensive. And a single vintage year port, like a single vintage year champagne, is rare and it's reserved for years that are thought to be exceptional. Vintage ports are bottle aged for a long, long time, and they're bottled with natural sediment from the grapes and the fermentation process. And the sediment is sometimes called the crust.
Oh.
Which doesn't sound super
No.
awesome, but
Oh,
I
it
guess
just
it's supposed to be
doesn't
awesome.
Sound like wine related, but
Yeah, no, it isn't, but it is.
but I guess it is.
Yeah, it is. But because we have a price cap, ceiling on how much we'll pay for our wines, we don't have a vintage port to try today.
It's okay.
But again, there's a ton we could talk about. I want to give you just a few quick differentiations between Ruby and Tawny Port because you will see both. And you may want to know, should I get a Ruby Port or a Tawny Port? And then we have a really nice, in the show notes, I have a long grid where you can look at all of the differences.
Of course
Carmela,
you do. Of course
Carmela
you do.
rolled her eyes. Okay. A few differences, though. Tawny Port.
Graph it.
Yeah, Jesus. Tawny Port is amber in color due to oxidation, and Ruby Port is ruby red. That's where their names come from.
Okay, duh.
Tawny is kind of brown. Ruby is red. Okay. Tawny Port is aged, as I said, in small oak barrels. Ruby is aged for shorter times, and oak vats may be used or it could be stainless steel. So it just depends on how the winemaker wants to make it. Tawny Port is generally more funky in taste because of the aging and oxidation. Ruby is supposed to be more fresh and fruity. Tawny Port is usually sweeter and has softer tannins than Ruby Port. And Tawny Port should be served slightly chilled, while Ruby can be served at just below room temperature. But really, if you have either one in a wine fridge or in a cellar, then they're probably just fine. Like, you'll be okay.
Okay.
But that's a lot of information, Carmela.
For sure.
So I think on that, we should just go to the two ports that we are drinking today. What do you say?
Okay. Ready or not?
Ready or not? Here we come. Okay, so as usual, the wines we have chosen for this episode are under $20 each, and they should be relatively easy to find because I bought them at wine.com. Shocking.
Great.
I will say that port should be very, very easy to find. And your local wine shop or, your neighborhood wine store, wherever you get your wines, you should be able to find port. But again, do you want tawny or ruby? We'll help you think through that.
Okay.
And then because like we did, you can find reasonably priced versions and you can find very expensive ones. So you just kind of have to look, and you probably want to tell your wine friend, whoever runs the wine store, how much you're willing to pay. Do you want to pay $20 or do you want to pay $100 or more?
Right.
So the first wine we're going to drink is the Fonseca Ruby Port. And this is a wine that's pretty easy to find. Fonseca, by the way, has been around for a long time, since 1815. So they've been making wine for more than 200 years. That's a long time.
Crazy.
That's longer than I've been alive.
No.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you probably.
Probably. Okay, they say the wine is aged for 3 years in large wooden vats, where they also say it softens without losing its fresh, intense character and color. And then one thing about these wines, you asked about this before, is that they can last for a while after being opened. So this winery says that their Ruby Port should be able to last up to 2 months after it's opened.
Oh, but just 2 months.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm just thinking,
some of the really fortified ones are more like a liqueur, the way they can sit for a long time.
Okay.
But the Ruby, again, these are fresher. They're supposed to be fresher.
Okay.
2 months is still long.
Yeah, I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah, you would never have a wine,
Never,
a normal
never,
wine,
no.
sit around for 2 months. I would still suggest you put it in the fridge and cork it, but you don't have to. The winery says to serve this wine at room temperature with some blue cheese, which sounds pretty awesome. And it was hard to find the exact blend of this wine, but one website said that the wine is made from the grapes Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, and Tinta Barroca.
Oh, wow.
I just like saying that.
I know,
It's kinda
you
fun.
do.
Francisco. Okay, so let's move on to our next wine, which is the Croft Fine Tawny Porto, also non-vintage like the last one, which is going to be typical. One, again, now back to the robots, okay? So a super interesting aspect of this wine is that the winery says they use a robotic Port-Toes technology, also called Port-Toes, also called robotic lagers, which is something that several port winemakers have been using for over a decade now. Now, evidently, it's a machine that mimics the action of feet to crush the wine grapes.
Feet are not created equally. So, what feet were they modeling at the?
Maybe Uncle Tolly's. Maybe Uncle Tolly's toes.
Oh,
it could have been.
That's not a good
Why?
image.
What's wrong with Uncle Tolly's toes?
I don't know. I've never seen his toes, actually.
You never did. I think he had beautiful feet.
Really?
No, I don't think I ever saw his toes either.
I'm sure you probably did.
I probably did, but I don't remember. And that could be because I don't remember, or I've tried to shut it out of my mind. But anyway, back to our port toes.
Off the Uncle Tolly's toes and
back to port toes. Okay. The reason these machines are popular is because the winemakers want the benefits of feet crushing the wine without the feet part of it.
Nice.
And so here's why they like it. The action of the feet is supposed to be good to extract tannins and pigment from the grape skins. The feet don't crush grape seeds, which can make wine bitter. And then the action of the feet adds some oxygen into the wine, which is supposed to be good for stabilizing the wine's color.
Well, you have a picture of this machine on your show notes.
I wasn't going to, but maybe I will put some robotic toes in there.
I would be curious to see
I don't think I'm going to put it in the show notes, but maybe I'll show it in our Instagram or Blue Sky.
Okay,
one of the two.
okay.
Who knows? We'll see. Okay, so the winery says that their wine is a blend of 3 to 4 year old wines selected for their ability to mature quickly to produce a mellow, rounded flavor. And then they age the wine for 3 years in neutral casks. And remember, neutral oak refers to oak that's been used before, so it's going to be a mellow oaking. And as I said, these wines are sweet. The residual sugar in this wine is 100 grams per liter. For reference, very dry wines are less than 1 gram of sugar per liter. This is 100 grams.
If you're limiting your sugar intake,
don't drink a lot
of for you.
Yeah. So, and just some more reference.
Or maybe just we're going for a few sips here and there.
Exactly. Yeah, don't down it.
No.
But for a few more references, off dry wines are up to 21 grams per liter. These are 100.
Wow.
And so these wines actually go beyond the sweet classification and into the very sweet classification. So as you said, they're not meant to be pounded. They're meant to be sipped and savored. And in fact, I think if you pounded them, you'd probably get a massive headache the next day.
And probably a terrible stomach ache.
Yeah, that too. And the winery also says that even though this is a tawny port, it doesn't need to be aged and can be drunk right away. So there you go. So you don't have to let it sit in the cellar for 10, 20, 30 years. You can drink it right away. But I think on that note, it's time that we start drinking and tasting and reviewing these wines. So we're going to take a quick break. And remember, if you drink along with us, you can cash in those participation points for stickers. And you don't even have to drink along with us. Just send us an email at joe@thewinepairpodcast.com. Tell us you want.
We're not checking up on you.
We're not. We're not like Santa. We're not that.
No,
we're not like
we're
Big
not-
Brother, like Santa is. Like
Right,
Santa or
right.
the elf on the shelf. That little son of a elf on the shelf. He's always watching you. And
We're doing an adult version of that, I heard.
yeah, what is it?
I don't know, but maybe it's Big Brother.
It might be.
I mean,
I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it at all. We're not like that. You just
No.
you just sent an email, joe@thewinepairpodcast.com with your mailing address. We give you stickers. We
Right.
don't even ask.
We're not up
We
that
don't-
late. We're not watching you sleep.
No, and we don't want to,
anything-
frankly.
No, that'd be weird.
It would be weird.
Yeah, you wouldn't like us.
No.
You'd be like, whoa.
Carmela, sometimes I wake up and Carmela's just watching me.
No.
No, she's not.
But there are plenty of times I'm up and hearing you.
And staring at me. Shut up. Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Okay, we are back and we are ready to try our first wine. This is the Fonseca Ruby Port. It's from Douro, Portugal. It's a non-vintage. It's $17.99. We got it at wine.com. 20% alcohol. And it's Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, and Tinta Barroca. And some earlier vintages they're not vintages, but in 2012, it got some high 80 ratings from Wine Spectator and Wine Enthusiast. But Carmela, what do you think first of the color?
It's very pretty.
Very pretty. It is ruby.
It is very red. Yeah.
I mean, it's red. It's ruby red.
it's really, it's
dark.
very holiday-ish.
It actually, you're right. It's very pretty
It's
in the
a
glass.
Very cool bottle. It's just a little standout with its little ripples along the bottom.
You know, it'd be a great gift wine just
port
from that.
It's a really good gift wine, I
It
think.
is.
Anyway, like
think
during
so.
the holidays,
think
especially.
so.
I mean, any time of year. And what I love about a port, and we don't know if it's every port, but the little tiny cork.
You like the little cork.
Yeah, and it's not, you don't need a little corkscrew. You just kind of wedge it out.
You're right.
Super cute.
You're right. Yeah. So let's smell it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, we didn't pour heavy. These were not heavy pours.
No, you don't need a full glass. You don't want a full glass.
No. I mean, it's like to me, it's like a candied cherry.
I so agree. Like almost like a cordial, like a cherry cordial. Oh, it's
cough
making
a
you
little.
cough. Yeah,
It is also like my first scent on it was also grapey, like church wine.
yeah,
You know, that sweet church
Yeah.
wine. We're Catholic, so you know the sweet church wine we know about.
yeah.
I don't think it was port though.
No, but it is definitely fruity, and it's
Fruity.
got. I mean, cherry, especially for me though. I'm definitely getting that, almost a little chocolate on it
Yes.
too. You know, like
I was going to say fudge
cocoa
almost.
Don't
you think almost fudge?
Cacao.
It does have a dark. Oh, I was going to hold on. I forgot to get the food. Hold on.
Wow.
Okay, sorry about that. We're back. I got some Carmela's plating. So I got some nice Theo chocolate, dark chocolate, 70%
From
cacao.
Seattle.
That's right. And then I went to Fred Meyer, and they're kind of divey sometimes when the ones you go. So I couldn't get like a block of blue cheese. So I got blue cheese crumbles, but it'll work.
That'll work. Why not?
It'll work. It'll work. I think we're going to taste it, and then we're also going to have some of this chocolate and blue cheese and see what we think.
Okay. Ooh,
Oh,
sweet.
it's so sweet.
Kind of fancy though. It
It's
feels
so
fancy.
sweet. It's like, I haven't had dinner yet, and so it's like super sweet.
Yeah, but I don't mind it. But again, couldn't have very much of it. But it's like it has a nice flavor.
What are you tasting?
I'm getting like cherry cordial, even like those chocolate cherry cordials are so good with that little bit of syrup inside. It almost tastes like the syrup
agree.
inside. I mean, that's really what I'm getting.
Well, you can really taste that distilled spirit. It is good with dark chocolate. So I just took a bite of the dark chocolate. and tasted the wine. It's really nice.
Yeah. It really is dessert. Like this is what you want to have with your dessert.
I know we're not there yet, but with like a chocolate torte, like a dark chocolate flourless cake, it would be kind of amazing.
Be delicious.
We're just sorry. We don't usually eat. It's a little rude. But this is a food. I think this is you can sip this for sure. Sitting by the fire on a cold night, it'll warm you up. This will warm you up.
It's kind of romantic because it feels sort of old.
It does kind of feel like fancy.
It feels fancy and it feels like kind of old. It kind of feels sophisticated. Like if you're going on a date and maybe it's not like your first date, but it's like you've had a few
third
dates.
date.
Yeah, and you're making dinner. This would be fun.
I thought the making was going to go somewhere else, but yeah, making dinner.
God, get your mind out.
I'm not gutter. That's nice.
Anyway, I'm just thinking this would be great to have at the end of a night. Kind of impress somebody.
And then be like, hey, no, I don't need to go down that path.
No, I don't know what path.
Oh, right.
No, I'm just the innocent bystander here.
Please, people, don't believe it. Anyway, I am getting cocoa on it. It's not musty. It's not musty.
It does not feel like that basement.
No.
It doesn't feel really old. I mean, I kept saying that before, but it feels kind of sophisticated is I guess what I'm thinking. And the wine doesn't have that old musty feel of a port.
You're right. And it's fruity. It's not quite fresh tasting, but it's fruity. Like it comes out very fruity, very red fruit. Chocolate covered strawberry almost.
It's a little bit dangerous. Because it's so sweet, you probably wouldn't overindulge.
Yeah.
But besides that, with all the alcohol in it, I don't think it tastes super alcohol-y.
No, but if you were drinking it like you drank a normal wine, I think you would taste more of the alcohol. We're taking little sips. We really are sipping it. And that's really what you should do.
Chug it.
Yeah, usually down it.
It's good.
It's nice. Okay, we've kind of talked about food, but what other food might you have with it? I like it with the blue cheese too. I think it tastes good. Stinky cheese would be good with stinky cheese. Nuts.
Right. I feel like this would be a little charcuterie. Like a little end of night dried fruit, chocolate nibs, blue cheese, apples, like something like that. Really kind of cute. Nuts, walnuts. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
I can picture this board. An after dinner board.
I agree. You know what I'm kind of tasting a little? It's jammy. I'm almost tasting like a fig jam on it. Do you taste a little fig jam? Almost like a little spiciness and fig jam. Kind of got a little bit of a figgy, like the inside of a Fig Newton kind of taste.
Ooh.
What do you think?
Yes, I can definitely
that
taste
sugary, sweet, figgy kind of taste. I think figgy pudding.
I love those Fig Newtons. Ooh.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to rate this wine. As a reminder, on a rating scale, we rate on a scale of 1 to 10. We don't do half points, although together our score will come up sometimes to a half. That's the way math works, right? So if you do a 7 and I do an 8, that's 7.5.
Okay.
But individually, we don't do half points. A 7 or above means we'd buy it. 4 or below means we're not going to buy it. We're going to pour it down the sink. And a 5 or 6 means we drink it, but we're probably not going to buy it. And so, Carmela, what rating would you give this wine?
So, for a port, like if I'm talking just in the port realm,
in the realm of port, in the world of port,
I'm going to give it an 8.
Nice.
I really think it's good.
Okay.
And I actually feel like it is a crowd pleaser. Like some people, port is too much and not interesting. I think a lot of palates would enjoy this.
I think it's a really fun wine. It's a great after dinner wine. It'd be a great gift wine. You're going to a holiday shindig, bring some port, whether it's a Christmas or New Year's or Hanukkah or whatever. I think people would love it. I'm going to give it a 7.
Okay.
I would buy it. I definitely would buy it. It's cheap. It's $17.99. It's a good price. It's very good. I think it's a good wine.
The only thing I would say is I eat this chocolate. It's so delicious. Mm-hmm. I feel like it's kind of a big bottle.
Okay. You think like it could be smaller.
Yeah, which is sort of silly. But I feel like I wish it was a half bottle for a gift.
Okay. Fair enough.
I just don't know if you're going to go through this unless you have a huge crowd of people.
But it's not that expensive. So it's not like you're throwing a lot of money away.
True. But something about a petite bottle of port is kind of cool.
Gifty.
That's just like my own little aesthetic.
It's your thing.
Yeah.
It's your thing. Okay. We're going to take a break and we're going to try our last wine.
Okay.
Okay, we are back and we are ready to try our last wine. This is the Croft Fine Tawny Porto. It's also from Douro, Portugal, non-vintage. It was only $12.99
Wow.
at wine.com, 20% alcohol, and it was made from Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, Tinta Barroca, Tinta Roriz, Tinta Cao, and Tinta Amarela. And a Wine Spectator gave this wine at some point a 91. Now, right out of the bat, what I would say is it was darker and more red than I expected it to be. And I was thinking, boy, if somebody really put me to the test and said, is this a ruby or a tawny port? I'd probably say it was a ruby based on the color.
Yes. Looks very similar to the other one.
Yeah, the one thing I would say is it's duller. It has a little bit,
not as shiny.
it's not as shiny. And on the rim, it does kind of have like the rim of the wine. It almost has this tawny or brown rim kind of on the wine. So that's, I think, where you see it. It's just kind of a duller color. Now, what do you're really
I know.
examining the smell.
I think, I'm really getting
Ooh,
molasses.
caramel. Yeah, molasses is good.
That's what I'm getting, a little molasses.
And it's got that basementy kind of
a
smell.
little bit, definitely more than the other one. Not
swirl
as
it.
fresh.
Swirl it.
Like it doesn't, the other one felt like a little fresh.
Oh, dude, on the swirl, you're going to get that like old grandpa's box,
Kind of the Hope Chest.
Yeah. And it's
Hope Chest smell.
It's a little perfumey, but it's definitely different smelling. It does not have that fruity kind of cordial.
Cherry. Yeah, no, not like, it's syrupy, but it doesn't have the sweet syrupy smell.
Yeah, I'd almost say like pepper. Almost as
Black
a pepper.
What other peppers are black?
No, I mean, there's green pepper.
Yeah,
There's
true.
I mean, sometimes I'm coughing.
Whoa.
Sometimes they say white peppercorn and green pepper. I don't know what the hell. I just think it smells like pepper.
I'm just really getting molasses on it.
I'm getting something else, and I got to think about it for a minute.
Like blackstrap molasses. Really, really. Like,
Yeah, because it's almost bitter molasses. You know? Don't you think am I crazy?
No, not at all. I mean, you are crazy, but no, I'm smelling it too.
You know, it's sometimes they say this. It kind of smells meaty. This kind of smells a little
bit.
meaty.
Yeah, it does.
A little bit like
Interesting.
sopressata.
Oh my gosh, a little bit. Yeah, there's a little bit of spice on it too.
A little caramel, I think. A little caramel, a little spice. Well, I did say pepper.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, well let's taste it.
Oof.
It's actually pretty smooth.
Yeah, but it is rich.
Raisin, very raisiny.
Yeah, definitely raisin. Definitely.
Don't you think it's dried fruit? This one tastes like dried fruit.
Currant. Yeah, it's.
No, it tastes old to me, not currant.
Oh, you're so funny. Yeah, definitely dried fruit. There's something else. I don't know if it's like almost like a little bit like shoe polish.
Oh, okay.
And the smell.
I haven't tasted shoe polish in a while,
Well, the last time that I did.
but I'm gonna go with it.
Wow, you
coughing.
love it, don't you? No, but something in the smell, again, kind of leather. Maybe it's leather.
Okay, yeah, little leather jacket. I will say I didn't like it as much with the chocolate. I thought the ruby with the chocolate was really nice. This is almost thinner. It's almost too thin. Like I tasted too much chocolate.
Ah, okay. What about the cheese? Would you have the cheese with this?
Let me try the cheese. She's watching me.
I want to see what's happening here. You have my undivided attention.
Good
It's
with
like
the cheese.
it's like he likes it.
Good with the cheese.
Jojo likes it.
Good with the cheese.
Okay,
It'd be good with cheese and nuts. You know, sometimes there are different kinds of desserts, especially if you're European. Sometimes you have the flourless chocolate torte, and sometimes you just have nuts and fruit. This is a nut and cheese. And this is a cheese and nuts and fruit wine.
Kind of nutty.
What else are you? Anything else you're tasting?
I feel like I'm not sure about the cheese in it. Maybe it's just the cheese.
Maybe you don't like the cheese.
Yeah. No, it's good, but blue cheese is just for me better on a salad.
Okay, I buy it. Any other foods you'd pair with this Croft Fine Tawny Porto?
I do feel like you're going to do a dark chocolate, like we're doing something like bitter almost. You don't, because this adds so much sweetness.
So sweet.
Yes, you're not going to be doing like something whipped creamy. You
No.
want it to be something dark.
I almost feel like this is something you could just pour on your ice cream. It's so sweet.
Joe, I think you nailed it.
Yeah, it's so sweet.
A vanilla, like
Yeah.
like a vanilla bean
Yeah.
ice cream.
It's super sweet.
Yeah.
It's almost too sweet for me. But
You know what? What if you had this like on some sort of Greek yogurt?
oh, Strangely, I think that actually might work.
Yeah, I don't know.
Instead of honey. It does kind of have a honey taste to it.
It does have a little bit of
honey. Is a good one. It tastes like honey.
Yeah, you're right. It is kind of honey.
Very, it's almost got that bittery kind of honey kind of flavor to it. Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, let's rate this wine. What would you rate this one?
I'm going to give it, I'm going back and forth between a 6 and a 7.
Well, which one is it going to be? Because you can't do both.
I'm going to give it, it's a tough one because I definitely drink it. I'm not sure I'm going to buy it. I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay. I think I'm a 6 as well.
Okay.
I mean, in the world of port, now this might be like the more classic port or whatever, but in the world of port, I would get the Ruby before I get this Tawny.
Me too.
So I think our scores reflect that, and I think I would just prefer it. I think this is a nice wine. I think people would enjoy. If I was served it, I'd be happy to drink it.
Yeah.
It's just super sweet, and it's also not as gifty looking. By the way, I'll just say that.
Right. It isn't. It's pretty just like basic.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, and then I think this will be easy, but which of these two are you finishing tonight?
Ruby.
Yeah, the Fonseca Ruby Port. Okay, so let's do the taste profiles expected from Ruby or from port. In general, Wine Folly says raspberry, blackberry, caramel, cinnamon, and chocolate. Ruby ports can taste like maraschino cherries, strawberries, and plums. Tawny ports can be nutty, buttery, and have creme brulee flavors. Vintage and older ports can taste like dried fruits, nuts, butterscotch, and graham crackers.
Butterscotch, excuse me. That's a good one.
The Fonseca Port. Wine enthusiast says a big, bold, and rich port that's smooth and very plush with a velvet feel. The style is ripe and rounded, a delicious medley of jammy fruits and soft. Wine Spectator says this floral style shows plenty of violet between sweet cherry and dried red berry flavors, a bit light mid palate with straightforward spice notes on the finish. I think we got a lot of it.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, Croft. The winery says a clear apricot color. It is not apricot in color.
I mean, maybe the rim has a like you were saying, but
the core of the wine isn't even close. It's cherry red with spicy plum, nut, and licorice aromas and flavors. Mildly sweet and full-bodied. I think it's super sweet. Wine Spectator says a sleek and reserved style with dark cherry and plum fruit infused with hints of mulling spices, red tea, and dried anise. The focus finish has nice persistence. They were getting a lot of licorice.
Yeah. I mean, I think I can get behind that, but no molasses.
No, or honey or anything like that. It's
so
super
in the
sweet.
Molasses camp on this one.
Okay, so Carmela, last verdict on port for a holiday wine.
I think it's a great idea.
I do too.
I think it's a great gift. I think it's super. If you're going to have a long evening like we will, it would be really fun to pull this out at the end of the night.
I agree. I think people would really have fun. And like second dinner, everybody's like kind of overeaten and then they're like, let's eat a little more. It's a very Italian thing to do.
Well, and it's kind of, I love the idea of like a nightcap on Christmas Eve, especially. It's just kind of a fun way to kind of round out the night. And this would be fun to pull out. I
agree. And a good gift wine. And again, like you can tell from our rating, our taste, we like the Ruby. If you know what you like, you may like the Tawny Port better, and that's totally, totally fine. Hallelujah. Okay, Carmela, it's time for us to go. But before we do, we want to thank you very much for listening to us. And if you haven't had a chance to do so yet, now would be the perfect time to follow or subscribe to our podcast, and also a great time to leave us a nice rating and review as a free way to support us. We love to hear from you. So send us a note at joe@thewinepairpodcast.com. Ask for some stickers. Go to our website. Sign up for our email newsletter. Keep in touch. DM us, whatever. We'd love to hear from you. We really appreciate it. We always respond. And with that, we're going to sign off, and we want to thank you once again, and we'll see you next time. And as we like to say, life is short, so stop drinking shitty wine. And happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, whatever you do, have a great one. Have a great end of your year. Bye-bye.
Bye.